Welcome to another episode of Inside CU Sports. I'm Sheldon Dossett, and with me today is head coach of the 13th ranked women's soccer team, Alex Adams. Alex, how are you doing?
Doing great, Sheldon. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. The rankings just came out today, ranked 13, like I mentioned. What has the offensive capabilities of the women's soccer team clicking on this 9-game win streak now?
Yeah, so we've been able to get some good results, and defensively we've been solid as well, but that's really opened up the opportunity for some of our attacking players to be more free and be able to get forward and take more risks because they know they have that solid back line behind them. So just the offensive capabilities, knowing that we're going to be able to develop quality chances consistently to give us chances to win games. I think that's it's been really nice having that and having multiple players that can score as well.
Best start since 2015, the best scoring start through 11 games with 50 total. We kind of touched on the offensive capabilities there. What do you see could be an improvement even in that regard and with an already impressive offensive showing?
Yeah, for us, I think, we're developing a lot of good quality chances, and we're still leaving quite a few on the field as well. Missing like 1v1 type opportunities or forcing play a little bit to get shots off whenever there's that open pass or that next sequence that is nice and simple that, sometimes we're overcomplicating things because we have talented players that have the ability to make things happen on their own. So just being able to stay connected within that space and make sure that whenever we do get those chances that we're tucking them away because, there's 2 or 3 within each game that I can think of that I look back and I'm like, we have to score that opportunity. So just ironing out those little details would be what we would like to do going forward.
Like I mentioned too, you all have a 9-game win streak now. What has the team coalescing as a whole? I know, obviously, as a coach, you have a more behind-the-scenes sort of viewpoint. Has something changed or clicked, or has it been a natural progression just over the season?
I feel like it's been a natural progression. We've needed to develop some things moving forward and make sure that we're connecting in the right way. I think that we have that type of mentality and attitude now with the leadership within our team that we're going to step into every game knowing that if we can control the energy and make good decisions and minimize our mistakes, then we're going to give ourselves an opportunity to win. And that's a good thing to have. It brings a lot of positivity within the group and a lot of team spirit that's coming from the bench and then bleeds out onto the field. So we've been doing really well with that and have enjoyed that cultural side of things, just the support from the team.
Yeah, the depth of the club also has been instrumental in the success. You have 6 players with double-digit points. So, and all of those 6 players would be eligible to return for next season. How do you keep your players' mindset current? Because I kind of put myself in their shoes and I think, oh, I'm a sophomore or a junior, I still have this next year. How do you keep their goals focused and their mindset current on the...
So throughout this season, we've been really focusing on one game at a time and not letting ourselves get ahead of this next game. That's the only one that matters for us. I know it's hard because you see there's a tough run of games at the end of our schedule, and a lot of players want to focus on, okay, well, where do we need to be for this game? And for me, I'm focused on one game at a time, getting the job done then. And then, just generally with the team, the experience that they had, whether they were still in high school or just a freshman last year, sophomore last year for those that are going to be returning, they've experienced what it's like to feel the loss of games and the loss of opportunities from COVID. So for them, they know that this time is precious. The seniors have been instrumental in sharing their experience as well. And that's something that they've seen now, at any moment, things can change. So take every single moment that you have to train, to play, and, make the most out of it. And I think that they've done a great job of that.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the few bright spots that COVID has kind of shined a light on. It's just how we shouldn't take things like that for granted.
Definitely.
7th in goals scored per game in the NAIA, and then 12th in total assists. that speaks to the connection right there, and that's just objective statistical information. So what can you give us some insight on just about how the team has been able to click on the field and to set each other up efficiently?
I think for us, it's really difficult for other teams to focus on one individual player, because as soon as they make those adjustments and try to focus on a specific area of the field to try to eliminate something we can do, then it allows the other players to shine more brightly, and get those opportunities. So just having the availability to have players that have the pace to get in and serve balls across, have the ability to stretch the other team a little bit, and then be able to stay connected and make sure that we're providing support for each other and covering each other whenever we do make mistakes. I think that it allows a lot of opportunities to open up for multiple different players. And again, I think that having that type of depth allows you to open up more space, to open up more opportunities from all across the board. So we've been very lucky with that this season.
About 2 weeks left in the regular season. What are some spots that you have decided that maybe the team needs a little bit more focus on heading into postseason play?
Just looking into our last couple games, we've given up a couple goals in each game, and the majority of them have come from our own mistakes. So it's just making sure that we're mentally focused and prepared, and that we're up to the speed of the game from the start. I think a couple of the mistakes we made yesterday, they should have never happened. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't happen, then there would be no chance for the other team to have gotten chances on their own in the way that we were playing. So just making sure that we're focused on being disciplined, playing safe, and then continuing to stay sharp and work hard. And then towards the end of the season, obviously legs and fitness become extremely important. So we're working hard with Ellie Wright, our athletic trainer, that's been great this year, making sure that the girls are being disciplined and going in and getting their legs and their bodies taken care of as well.
This Saturday, you have another game against Freed Hardman. In the short term here, what are some things that you all are focusing on, perhaps outside of just these sort of mental maybe lapses? That way you're not fighting against yourself a little bit heading in there to face off against Freed Hardman.
So yeah, Freed, we're going to be on the road on a long trip again. Every time that we've gone on a long trip on the road and stayed in a hotel, we've come out a little bit lethargic. So I think finding that energy and really putting our focus on the start in the first 5-10 minutes of that game and making sure we make a statement during that time. And for us as well, just getting more depth on the field, making sure that there's confidence in every single player from top to bottom. And that's something that I've been working on, finding the right pieces to sub in and make those changes, and then making sure that they're finding their role within the team on the field as well. So I think if we can take care of business the way that I hope we can, then I should be able to use some of those depth players, build some confidence in them, and then really set them up for success going into the rest of the season.
Well, thank you, Alex, for stopping by, and congratulations on your 13th place ranking for the women's soccer team. And we will be back with more Inside CU Sports in just a few moments.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Our fight against coronavirus isn't over. We still have to slow the spread and do our part. Let's wear face masks in public. Stay 6 feet or more from others. Follow state and local guidelines. Wash our hands frequently and stay home when we feel safe. For ourselves, for our loved ones, for our future. Let's move forward together. Learn more at coronavirus.gov.
How you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Thank you.
A place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
When I
I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
We discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
love.
Welcome back to Inside CU Sports. With me now is head coach of the men's soccer team, Adam Preston. Adam, how are you doing?
Doing well. A little tired.
Yeah, I bet. You said you got in about 4 a.m., something like that?
4 a.m.
And I hate to bring it up right off the bat, first loss of the season last night to Bethel University. What are your impressions from that game?
You know, Bethel is a good team, in my opinion, a top 15 team. They've taken a couple bad losses just where they played poorly. But we knew they were going to be a tough game. Driving 4.5 hours and playing that match, it was the one that stood out on my schedule as this one's going to be tough. It was a difficult game. Our guys played really well in the first half, actually dominated play, and then we settled in the second half a little bit. Had a few keeper mistakes that we've been struggling with that a little bit, and it's just something we got to work with Jeremy on, building that mentality and that mental strength. But the second half, we just kind of settled where we were and said, okay, how are we going to not lose this game instead of how are we going to win the game? And that's a team growing. You know, that happens as you work through a year, but it is difficult to get them around that corner and say, hey, we're going to push ourselves all the way through, we're going to dictate play and dominate the game.
When you're coming off of an impactful loss like that, how do you approach your team?
It's different with every team.
Sure.
I think these guys, you know, they've not tasted that yet, and you've got to use that to fuel them because it can go one of two ways. It can bring them down, or they can say, okay, we're not going to let this happen again. And that's what we talked about not approaching games hoping to win. Take that out of the equation. Go out and be determined to win. And, you know, we're still working on that, working through it. Right now we're on a big run of games and the legs are tired. We've got a very deep team and a very fit team, but it just catches up. And then the travel's there. We're going to Freed Hardman this weekend. It does start to wear on you, but it's just shaping it into something that builds us up instead of brings us down.
Your team is 5th in goals scored per game in the NAIA, 6th in shots per game, but then 43rd in shot percentage. How do you approach that with your team to improve shot efficiency and maybe shot placements and things of that nature?
Yeah, we want to create opportunities, and sometimes you just open up and go. I think that the shot percentage stat is a little bit difficult to swallow because there's some teams that are getting 3 shots in a game, and that's their goals. Yeah. You know, I think any team in the country would say I'd love to load up on shots, and then we get our chances from it. You know, but as long as we're getting the chances and creating those, it'll come. With the last game, we had 3 balls off the post and a couple huge keeper saves, even against Bethel last night. Pedro Afonso hit a beautiful volley, and the keeper should not have saved it. He made a worldly save. So we'll take that. As long as we're getting the shots, I'm happy. Second half, last night, we had 1 shot. First half, we had 10. I'll take that every single day of the week in the first half, but you got to get the shots or they don't come.
Right. You have some impactful 5th-year seniors that have undeniably made their mark on your all season. Tom Edge, of course, breaking the record for most games played, and he's also leading the team in assists. And then Pedro Ramos also having 4, at least 1 goal in 4 of the last 6 games. Can you discuss kind of what that leadership means and how it trickles down to the rest of the team?
It's an absolute difference maker. You know, these guys have been through the battles. They've been through the wars. They know what a season's like. They know not to get too far down or too far up. Pedro, when he came to us, was a brilliant player who was coming off of a major knee injury and really hadn't seen the best of him. And we were hoping that this year he'd work really hard this summer and come back, and he's worked his way into the team, and he's one of our best players right now, creating all kinds of things. Tom has just grown so much as a leader. He was really close to where he should have been last year. And we do a lot of leadership development. We do a coach and captain's leadership manual. He has to come sit in my office, and we go through a workbook together. We do that with some of the younger players as well. And it finally took for him. And it's a difference maker for us. That's not to take away from Elador Goicoechea, who is just fantastic when he's on his game, untouchable. Scott Brooksbank, who is the unsung hero. He does everything for us, would honestly put himself on the line. And he's kind of been through the ringer through his years here. You know, he's had some unique experiences and fought through and earned his spot. But those guys are really leading the way. Calvin Heck, who's on the bench, but he does a great job of just being a collective voice and leading the team and having an understanding of what it's like to be on the field and off the field. And it's just a credit to all of them, how they keep us in line.
The men's team also is one of the top in the NAIA in yellow cards. Now that's a double-edged sword. You want your team to be physical, but you don't want them to overstep that physicality and then perhaps take away from what the team is doing. So how do you balance that?
We don't.
Yeah.
It's a physical game. Because we're a big, strong team, sometimes we'll hit a player and he goes flying and they see it as one thing. The other thing is teams come for us. When you're a better team, teams are going to kick you. Right. And that means it starts to open the book up. And when that opens, it just rolls. That being said, I think we only have 3 or 4 players with more than 1 yellow card. So it's kind of balanced across. Right. A yellow card for me, so many people don't understand that. They say, okay, well, this is a really severe infraction. It's a hard foul in basketball. And that's something that as you understand it, you kind of work through it. It will hurt us going forward. I think Tom and Connor are both on 4 yellow cards right now. A 5th has them suspended for a game. I hate that rule, but it's a necessary thing put together by administrations that maybe don't understand the game the way that they should. But it's just something you deal with as you work through. I'd much rather have a team that's too aggressive than one that's not aggressive enough.
For sure. 2 weeks about left of the regular season. Between now and then, when postseason play starts, what are the areas of focus for you and your team?
Right now, it's recovery. We've got to get their legs back. I think the next 3 days will just be contrast therapy, Normatec, like every bit of recovery we can do, stretching, foam rolling. We got yoga sessions today. It's just getting your legs back under them. When we're at our best, then I think that we're almost untouchable if we play well. So that's it, just getting the legs back underneath them. We have some really tough games coming. We mostly worry about how we play. Obviously, we have scouting reports, and we prepare specific plans for each team. But if we're playing our best, there's not many teams that compete with us.
Right. Speaking of, this weekend you're going to travel to Freed-Hardman and take them on. What are specific sort of scouting focuses that you've brought to your team to be like, hey, this is what we need to really focus on to bring our A game against Freed-Hardman? We've
got to be possession-based. With Freed, they are very good at dropping off and killing long balls. And honestly, we're not very good at that. We do revert to that sometimes. Last night we reverted to that because we felt like we had the game at hand and we stopped playing. If we can keep the ball on the ground and just play the right ways, we got to be a little bit more effective on our set pieces. But again, I think that we have all the pieces if we play the right way. So it'll be about focusing on the right way to play and being disciplined for 90 minutes. I think as we were playing last night, we talked about we've got to put together a 90-minute performance. I don't think we've done that yet this season. And if you're going to be a championship caliber team, you have to do that.
Yep. Well, thank you, Adam, for stopping by, and congratulations on your 23rd ranking as well in the NAIA. And we will be right back with more on Inside CU Sports.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. This is unacceptable, and something Feeding America is working to solve. Through a nationwide network of food banks, Feeding America serves virtually every community in the United States, including yours. See how you can help your community. Visit feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my 3rd child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Oscar the Grouch here to tell you, yeah, you, to wear a mask out in public around other people. Sure, it'll keep you healthy, but more importantly, I won't have to see your happy, smiling face. And if you don't want to wear a mask, I've just got one thing to tell you. Scram! Go away!
Caring for each other because we are all in this together.
So wear a mask and have a rotten day, will ya?
Welcome back to Inside CU Sports, and with me as my final guest is head golf coach here at Campbellsville, Rick Davis. Rick, how are you doing?
Doing well, Sheldon. Doing well.
You all most recently had the Georgetown College invite where the men placed first as a team and the women second. What were your takeaways from that invite?
Challenging win both days. Yeah. Yesterday, especially day 2, it was extremely windy, but you know, everybody had to play in that. And girls seemed to not really adjust to that as well. But you know, they've been playing really well. And the guys, they answered the bell, finally, so to speak, I guess. They've been struggling a little bit. I don't know if sometimes I say struggle, but then again, I think about it, I don't think they're struggling. I think to their standards they are, but to mine, we're still trying to fill out each other. But they came out on top and played really well yesterday.
You alluded to the fact that they would maybe say that they were struggling, the men specifically. Before the Georgetown College invite was the Dalton State Roadrunner invite, and they sort of had a little blip there where they didn't perform as well as maybe they anticipated.
Absolutely. First thing is really a challenging field. There's 20 schools there, and I think 18 of them were ranked in the top 25 in the nation, which it was a tough field, but on top of that, the course was tough. We just never did adjust to the greens. They're different greens than what we have here in Kentucky. They have Bermuda greens, and they have so many, break so much differently, roll differently, and we just seemed to never really adjust to it. You could see it in their eyes as they would come off of a green. Just a little puzzled look, and they would look back at that and think. And I asked them a couple of times. I said, "What do you think?" I said, "You know, I hit it like I thought I needed to, and it just didn't go in." And that's golf for you, though, when it comes down to it.
How do you anticipate those performing on those sorts of greens and fairways when you're not really accustomed to it? Do you just only use that hands-on experience, or are there other?
Yes, pretty much, because down south, and that's where we were, down in Tampa, Florida, and that primarily that's what their greens are, and ours in this area are not. They're usually bent grass, and they can change them a little bit, speed them up, or slow them down a little bit, depending on how much they work on them. But we just have to put that kind of in our, I call it long-term memory bank. Yeah. And when we get back to that level and we play on a course, we just, hey, let's go back and see what did we do, how do we need to adjust to that. And this group of young men, and then the young women too, young women, they got 6th down there out of 15 schools. Right. And to them, they said that they didn't play very well, but I thought they handled it. And they played on this course called the Island Course. And the men were on the Copperhead course. Well, they kind of bantered back and forth between the two, which course was the toughest.
Oh, one sounds tougher than the other one.
Oh, yes.
Just based off the name.
A lot of the locals down there claimed that the Island Course was the toughest one.
Oh, wow.
And the girls, they'll tell you it was tough.
Yeah.
But, I admire them for what they have to go through. A lot of times I think they're harder on themselves than I could be hard on them. And that's one reason I had to step back sometimes after a golf round and just evaluate instead of being upset, because I know how tough the game is. Right. And these young men and women are performing admirably. And they said, "Coach, we'll do better, and we'll learn from this." And I don't doubt that in a minute, because they're ready. I call them grinders, because they want to work. Yep. It's like yesterday, they shot even par as a team, the men did. And they said, "Coach, we can play better," and I know they can. And I just said, we had a talk the night before about taking a little pressure off of each other. Don't have so much pressure on themselves to perform. It's like they say, well, we have to do this or do that. No, just go out there and have fun with the game.
You mentioned it on the women's side. Connor Gerald's, Gracie Parrott, April Hauk, all performing well, consistently having individual top 10 finishes. How do you motivate them to continue that sort of play?
Well, you just have to challenge them, because if you challenge those three right there, they will work. They'll work at it. And, you know, yesterday, for example, those three, you asked each one of the three, they didn't play well yesterday. Right. I mean, you know, that's one round, and that ultimately was the deciding factor of what happened. But one thing about those three young ladies, I don't have to worry about them working at what ailed them, so to speak. They carry the torch for the women's team, along with Abby Coffey, those top four. And Abby she was our number one yesterday, low score. But according to her, she wasn't happy, and because they know they can do better. But that's what makes them a unique group. They challenge themselves and they challenge each other and they're pretty close on the golf course, and that's what makes them so strong. And when they don't have the round that they think, you see what happens, and it's still good enough for second place.
Right.
But I think we may have gotten a little lax, and because we had been playing really well and still achieving.
Right.
And they found out that you just can't just walk out on the golf course and everything's going to be okay. You still got to work. And one thing about it, we got fall break coming up for them, but they'll still work on their own, no doubt about it.
About 3 weeks until the Mid-South Conference Championship. What is there to work on until that time?
Well, that's interesting to say. It gives us an opportunity to kind of step back, regroup, because we've done a lot of traveling in just this short time. Probably a little too much. I've kind of stepped back myself and reevaluated and thought I may have put a little bit too much on them all at once, and we should have kind of spread it out a little bit more. But this little break comes at a good time to let them kind of catch their breath and get a little rest going into the Mid-South Fall Conference. They will. We'll see. We'll look at our stats from Golf Stat and see what's really, because the numbers usually don't lie,
right.
And you can learn from that, and we'll just work on whatever our stats are telling us. And then I always ask them, say, you know your game more than anyone else. What do you feel like that you really need to sharpen up on? And then we'll get busy and get to work, and we'll set up practice times, and say 3 weeks from now go to Bowling Green and hopefully play well, and I think they will.
Yeah. Well, best of luck, Coach, and best of luck to the team at the Mid-South Conference Championships. We will be back next time for more Inside CU Sports. Thank you.